Good evening, everyone. Before beginning any event, we offer our prayers to Ma Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, and light a lamp to help illuminate our path forward. I invite our chief guest, retired Justice Akil Kureshi, and our principal, Dr. Srimati Veena, along with our panelists for the day, to light the lamp and provide us with an auspicious start to our event. It is an honor to request of the principal, Dr. Veena, and the chief guest, Honorable Retired Justice Akil Kureshi, and the professor in charge, Assistant Professor Shraddha Suraskar, to kindly grace the stage with their presence.
Request Professor Kishu Daswani to also join us on stage, please. We are immensely grateful to our chief guest, the Honorable Retired Justice, Mr. Akil Kureshi, who has honored us by his presence. Justice Akil Kureshi, who has served as Chief Justice of the Rajasthan and Tripura High Courts and as active Chief Justice of the Gujarat High Court in 2018, is renowned for his unwavering commitment to upholding constitutional freedoms, integrity, and justice. His dedication to these principles is widely acknowledged and celebrated within the legal community across the nation. I would like to extend a warm invitation to our Justice Akil Kureshi. I invite Sir onto the podium to share a few of his wise words.
Good evening, everybody. Dignitaries on and off the dais, friends, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, my Compliments for the organizers and the committee who has chosen this topic. It's a brilliant topic, most relevant for the day, and excellent panelists. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of information and inputs and discussions on this. Secondly, no matter what we discuss today, unity amongst diversity, how much we have achieved, how much is yet to be achieved, are we faltering, are we on the right track? You know, one thing gives me hope is that this room is full of youngsters on a Saturday evening when they have many more other entertainment options. One of them happening very close by from here, less than a kilometer from here. So thank you for all of you to come. What is unity and what is diversity? Somebody nicely said that it is unity without uniformity and diversity without fragmentation. And that's the whole concept we are trying to achieve or understand today. As a nation, there is an amalgam of various races, religions, castes, and creeds. You don't need to be told how many different regions and religions, geographical differences, historical, climatic, linguistic differences are there in this country. You know, once I was in Tripura, at the peak of Corona, a very close family member was seriously ill. All flights were shut down. There was no other communication. I was forced to drive down from Agartala to Ahmedabad. It's a distance of about 3,500 kilometers. And but for the fact that I was not in a proper mood to enjoy all that, the landscape which changed in front of my eyes. Gentle rolling hills of Tripura with lush forests, merging into tall mountains, equally green of Meghalaya. Suddenly you enter into Assam, rice bowl with lots of water, rivers crossing the road, and endless fields of rice till you can site permits. On to Bihar, Ganga fields. And one of the most beautiful sight I saw was, I'm from a very urban background, Ahmedabad, Bombay, maybe Rajasthan, we have seen a little bit here and there. In Bihar, when my car was passing, I saw street urchins. You know, normally in a city, street urchins would be playing some marbles at the side of the road, on the footpath or sitting by a tea stall, chit-chatting. Here were two young boys, probably bunked school, and you know, each one was sitting on the back of a buffalo. The buffaloes were grazing, and those people were talking to each other as if it's having a field day. So that's a kind of diversity. Just in front of my eyes, everything played out. From there to Allahabad, to Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat. So the vastness of the country, the difference in geographical, historical, all kinds of differences is absolutely unimaginable. It reminds me of something of, despite all these differences, there is something unique Indianness about it. Difficult to define, difficult to grip or grasp, and there is still something unique Indianness about this. It's something like Indian classical music. You know, there is a rag, and rag has a definition, what is called pakad. Which tune follows which tune is mostly defined, and within that there are millions of variations, and each artist within those set rules gives interpretation or expression to that rag on his own way. And that is what somewhat of Indianness I can think of. When the Constituent Assembly was debating to make the constitution for India, Dr. Radhakrishnan described this uniqueness in this manner. His words were, India is a symphony where there are, as in the orchestra, different instruments, each with its particular sonority, each with its special sound, all combining to interpret one particular score. It is this kind of combination the country has stood for. It never adopted inquisitorial methods. It never asked the Parsis or the Jews or the Christians or the Muslims who came and took shelter there to change their creed or become absorbed in what might be called uniform Hindu humanity. And that is what our country stands for. When the Constitution was framed, my friend, all my experiences and my adaptations are going to be from the legal field. I'm not a sociologist, I'm not a student of political science. My background is law. When the Constitution was framed, this unity in diversity was to be seen in every aspect of the Constitution. The preamble itself talks of social, political, and economic justice for all, of liberty of thought, of expression, belief, faith, and worship, of fraternity, dignity of individual, and unity of equality of in India. Article 14, as you know, equality. Article 19(1) talks of freedom of speech and expression. Then Articles 25 and 26 ensure protection to the minorities and religious freedoms. So many such articles will manifest itself in our Constitution, which makes this unity into diversity a concrete concept. Friends, 75 years in the life of a republic is not enough to write its history, but long enough to take audit and consider whether we are going in the right direction or not. Ask a question to yourself whether we are on track to achieve this concept of unity in diversity. And in that context, your speakers will tell you so. So many things will come up. Your questions and answers will enlighten all of us. But to my mind, there are a few ups and there are a few downs. If you talk of the downs first, I put 2 or 3 areas immediately. One, the emergency. That's a political letdown of the country by the political class. 2, during emergency, another letdown came from the judiciary, ADM Jabalpur judgment, where the Supreme Court said that right to life and liberty is a fundamental right which can be suspended during emergency. And third was a demolition of Babri Masjid, which came from the society. So according to me, there are 3 areas where, or at least 3 instances which immediately come to my mind, where you need to guard better in future. Having said that, to my mind, there are many ups also, many positives. Keshavananda Bharati judgment is one of the landmark moments in the Indian constitutional history where one judgment has put our constitution beyond majoritarianism. No matter what the entire parliament says, certain basic features cannot be altered or amended. It recognizes the principle that every right is not open to tempering by majority. Second, electoral response to the emergency. After the emergency excesses, when the elections were declared, entire northern belt of India resoundingly rejected the idea of emergency. Southern belt voted in favor of Congress, probably because the excesses of emergency were not so much there. Third, H.R. Khanna's shining lone dissenting view in ADM Jabalpur is one of the shining points in the history of Indian Supreme Court. On the ground also, I see so many positives. Look at our festivals. Has anybody of you been to Ahmedabad during kite flying, 14th of January? It's probably the most secular festival I can think of. All people of caste, communities, richest to the poorest, is on the terrace, and there is celebrations all around. It is not associated with any religion. Holi, it cuts across all castes and religions. Diwali, it's associated with the harvesting season. It may coincide with a new calendar of Hindu calendar, as in the western part it is. But essentially, it is when the monsoon season is over, crop is harvested, and it is sold, and that is why all the traders start their new accounts from the first day of the new year. Because when the farmers have the money, they will pay off for all the past things they have bought on account. Diwali has probably nothing to do with religion. It has so much to do with our daily routine lives of the farmers. I was recently reading a book on Guru Nanak. Somebody has stressed his path wherever he went, preached, talked, settled down for a while, moved further. Much of his journey is on the other side of Punjab, the West Punjab, which is now part of Pakistan. And his investigations and his storytelling tells us that so many of such important places, the Gurudwaras, the Sarais, and all those places have fallen into complete disuse or land grabbing or are in desolate conditions. Compare that with our conditions. All of you must have seen Taj Mahal, but have you seen Humayun's tomb in Delhi? One of the finest monuments, and it's beautifully maintained. As a country, I'm sure we have done something right. Friends, just to end my thoughts, whenever you talk of all these things, you cannot forget what Tagore had said, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken down into fragments of narrow walls, where words come from depths of truths, where tireless striving stretches its arms forward towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and disaction. In that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those kind words, sir. I'm sure the audience learned quite a lot from such an opportunity.
Every institution is guided to greater heights by those at its helm. At GLC, we owe a debt of gratitude to our principal, Dr. Asmita Vaidya, for the same. She has provided us with her able leadership and decades of experience. In the span of her career, she has authored 8 reference books, 40 research articles, and more than 100 articles on women's rights, which have been published in various national and international newspapers and journals. She has also been the recipient of several awards, such as the Tejaswini Award, the Nation Builder Award, Navdurga Award, Superwoman 2020 Award, and the Best Teacher Award for 2020. With this, we would like to invite our esteemed principal, Dr. Smita Vaidya ma'am, to please say a few words.
Ma Saraswati La Vandan. Today's chief guest, Honorable Justice Akil Kureshi sir, former Judge, Mumbai High Court. All the speakers, Ms. Zakia, Advocate Agnes, Advocate Dr. Almeida, Advocate Veena, Professor in charge Daswani sir, and Dr. Shiraskar madam, all other professors who are present here, and my dear friends. Very good evening to one and all. As rightly pointed out and said by sir, that the topic which has been today selected is really required to be discussed, particularly by the young minds. And therefore, I appreciate and place on record the activity of the debating committee to organize 8th debate and panel discussion on UCC, Uniform Civil Code. We all know that Bharat is known for the diversity. Diversity is in culture, in language, race, ethnicity, sect, caste, and most importantly, religion. Indian population comprises of Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, Sikh, Buddhists, Jain, and in addition to that, we do have a tribal societies also. India is pluralistic society in spite of many foreign invention and many attacks, foreign attacks. The soul of every culture, faith remain intact and cohesive. It is the fact that irrespective of many hurdles, Bharat could preserve its egalitarian social relations, national unity, and integrity. We always use the phrase unity in diversity, which ultimately proposes, as Sir pointed out, unity without uniformity. In such situation, is it really possible to have a uniform civil code? Yes, definitely it is $1 million question. Bharat being secular state, we Bharatiya believe in respecting every religion and religious practices. The effect is we follow personal laws. The Constitution of India proposes formation of Uniform Civil Code under Article 44. After 75 years of independence, we are supposed to harmonize religious practices and have Uniform Civil Code, which in real sense will provide legal umbrella to all of us, and particularly, I must say, it will provide a very good legal umbrella to Indian women. Indian people follow different ideologies and practices. It starts from different family culture, ends with diversified religious culture. Secularism principle enumerates in the preamble of the Constitution expects respect towards all religion. Article 25 of the Indian Constitution says that everyone shall be allowed to follow his religion and no one shall be discriminated on any of the grounds. You all know Article 44 emphasizes on having the Uniform Civil Code, and the idea of having the Uniform Civil Code is not the new one and has been proposed by the constitution makers. The jurisprudential idea behind this proposal is to establish one law in one nation. Uniform Civil Code is expected to treat everyone equally irrespective of the religion. As a human being, all should be treated equally. The exigency exists in the fact and in the truth that there are fictions and discrepancies within the personal laws which are required to be addressed. Every religion does follow their personal laws. There is no uniform law. The gray area is covering matters relating to marriage, divorce, maintenance, adoption, guardianship. The personal laws vary across various spectrum in these matters. The panel discussion or a debate focuses on the implementation and beneficiaries of the Uniform Civil Code. Who is going to get the most benefit of having the UCC? At the same time, this discussion will also try to find out after effects of implementation of UCC. If it is really implemented throughout India, what will happen? By analyzing how UCC is going to ensure equality among diversified sections of the society. What is the international scenario regarding UCC? The developed countries like USA, Canada, Australia, UK, Russia, they do have their own uniform civil code. as developing law for the benefit of their society, culture, religion, and to remove any kind of discrimination among the society. The European nation and US have a secular law that applies equally and uniformity, and it is applied equally and uniformly to all the citizens irrespective of their religion. The Islamic countries, they do have a uniform law based on Shariat, which applies to all individuals irrespective of their religion. The Uniform Civil Code is a sign of what? It is definitely a sign of civilization and indicates a progress towards modern nation. It is an indication that nation has moved away from caste politics as well as religion-based politics. In India, Goa is the only state who is having UCC. And now, Uttarakhand, they do have the draft ready with them, and other state also trying for or going for or intending to go for the UCC. Now, do you find any hindrances in implementing? Yes, definitely we do have. The first is diverse religious ideologies. The second one we can say is misconception regarding UCC. And the misconception is that one religion may dominate the other religious practices. And most importantly, as has been pointed out by Sir, that there should be a political will. Strong political will be required to implement the UCC. What changes we can foresee by implementing UCC? First, there may be a transformation in marriage culture. Secondly, there may be a transformation in process of divorce because there will be uniform law. Thirdly, gender equality can be achieved. Fourthly, age of marriage will be same. As you all know, under Muslim, age of marriage is different. In Hindus and other religion, it is different. Law regarding to adoption will be same. There will be eradication of bad practices like dowry deaths, or even we can say iddat or observation of iddat, or maintenance law will be same. Clarity regarding the maintenance will be very, very clear. And most importantly, there will be implementation of principle of justice, and justice to all can be observed. Another advantage by implementing UCC is fortification of status of Indian women. Every time when we observe in society, though women have proved herself in every field, but still she is not getting the first, or we can say the status she deserves. Every time, even in family, she is the secondary person, and she generally is posed as at the second position in the family or even in the society. That discrimination, I think, will go away, and there will be emergence of modern secular state. Even judiciary is striving well, and in Shahabanu's case or Shayara Banu's case, or even in one more case, Mrs. Mary Roy versus State of Kerala, wherein the Christian lady has given the share in the father's property, that is equal share in the father's property. And even in Parsi law, we find if a Parsi person gets married with non-Parsi, then that daughter-in-law will get only half of the share. And if Parsi daughter gets married with another non-Parsi fellow, then she will not get any share in the property of father. So these kind of discrepancies will definitely go away. So one question that comes into our mind is that who is going to get the benefit of UCC? And as I said in the start of my speech, that I think Indian women will be the most beneficiary. If I'm not wrong, the experts will tell you. So UCC will be a legal blanket to all Indian women. And therefore, I do think with that direction, if we are discussing and if we come to that conclusion, definitely half of the population of India is going to be very happy, and other half is bound to get happy with that decision. So I congratulate Professor Daswani for selecting this topic for ETH, policy debate and panel discussion, and appreciate Debating and Literary Society of GLC for their successful organization of this event. I particularly using the word successful organization because the hall is full. And I always request all the students to be there in the class as you are here in the auditorium. So I hope we all will enjoy this debate. With these words, I conclude. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Your insights were truly enlightening and inspiring. To bring our opening ceremony to a close, we would like to proceed with the felicitating ceremony.
I kindly request our principal to present a token of appreciation to our chief guest, Justice Akil Kureshi. Thank you for gracing our event.
I would like to invite our professor in charge to present a token of appreciation to our principal, Dr. Srimati Asmita Vaidya.
I should appreciate you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to invite the Debating and Literary Society's co-convener Ram Manohar Gupta onto the stage to present a token of appreciation to our professor in charge, Assistant Professor Shweta Shiraskar. Thank you, ma'am, for all of your support and guidance. I would now like to request the principal, chief guest, and professor in charge to take their designated seats amongst the audience. Thank you.
Government Law College, founded in 1855, is the oldest law school in Asia and enjoys a preeminent national and international reputation for its excellence. Its rich and widely spread alumni includes legal luminaries par excellence such as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Nani Palkhiwala, Lokmanya Tilak, and Justice N.C. Chagla, just to name a few. Most of the top-notch counsels and legal practitioners who virtually built and ruled the entire paradigm of India's legal profession have also passed through the portals of this great institution. The college derives its strength and ethos from the spirit of free discussion and the debate. And it is in this light that the Debating and Literary Society was established. Since its inception, the Debating and Literary Society of Government Law College, Mumbai has promoted discussion, discourse, and dissent as a medium to engage and widen one's horizons. The policy debate is one of our flagship events where we seek to discuss important issues that affect the society as a whole. In previous iterations of the policy debate, some of the most learned and eminent dignitaries discussed a range of topics, including privacy as a fundamental right, India's place in the international community, and the collegium system in the judiciary. Each year, with a desire to improve and better ourselves, we strive hard to bring you a scintillating panel discussion that will enrich your mind. So once again, the Debating and Literary Society of the Government Law College, Mumbai, proudly presents to you the 8th edition of the Policy Debate. This time, our panel engages on the topic UCC, Search for Unity in a Diverse India.
The theme of this year's policy debate, the Uniform Civil Code, Search for Unity in a Diverse India, resonates deeply with the rich tapestry of our nation's history, culture, and ethos. India, often described as a subcontinent rather than a mere country, boasts incredible diversity in terms of religion, language, customs, traditions, and beliefs. The Uniform Civil Code, or UCC, is a topic of paramount importance. It calls for a common set of laws governing personal matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, and property rights, applicable to all citizens irrespective of their religions or religious affiliations. The pursuit of a UCC is not just a legal debate, it is a quest for harmonizing the various facets of India's identity. It raises fundamental questions about individual rights, gender equality, secularism, and the broader notions of justice and fairness. Without further ado, we present to you our esteemed panelists for today.
We would like to invite Advocate Flavia Agnes to please join us on stage, ma'am. Flavia Agnes is the co-founder of Magulus, which provides quality legal services to women and children as such, and has secured the rights of 1,000 aggrieved women in Mumbai as well as across Maharashtra. She is an acclaimed legal scholar and women's rights lawyer, proficient in the realm of family law, and has a prolific writing career on the issue of rights of minority women.
Next, we would like to invite to join us on stage Dr. Albertina Almeida. Albertina Almeida is a Goa-based lawyer who has been a member of the Family Law Review Committee set up by the Government of Goa to review family laws of the state, while also being a member of the Permanent Lok Adalat of Goa for nearly 2 decades. A columnist, teacher, and human rights activist, she holds a PhD on matrimonial property rights of women under Goa family law. Dr. Almeida brings her experience on co-founding several gender resource groups and practice from a state that has already adopted the UCC.
Now, we would be most glad to have Ms. Zakia Soman on stage. Ms. Zakia Soman, as the co-founder of the Muslim Mahila Andolan, is dedicated to promoting gender justice within Islam and advocating for equal citizenship. She achieved a significant legal victory as the petitioner in the Bombay High Court, leading to the historic ruling in 2016, allowing women's entry into the Haji Ali Dargah. She also took on the role of the petitioner in the Supreme Court regarding the issue of triple talaq, campaigning vigorously for its abolition, which resulted in the court's landmark decision in August. She believes and strives for a just, fair, and equitable world. Her remarkable efforts were recognized when she received the Outstanding Women Achievers Award from the National Commission for Women in 2014.
We would now like the pleasure of having Advocate Veena Gowda on stage. Veena Gowda is a women's rights advocate leading her team of lawyers in fighting social injustice against women. She also teaches a course on engendering law and justice at the Tata Institute of Social Science. Throughout her career, she has challenged discriminatory laws like the Indian Divorce Act 1869 and the Bombay Police Act 1951. She has also been involved in public interest litigation, particularly focusing on custodial mothers in matrimonial disputes, representing women and women's rights organizations. Advocate Gowda has contributed her expertise to committees established by the Maharashtra State Commission for Women and the Jawaharlal Nehru University.
Due to unforeseen scheduling issues, Senior Advocate Gayatri Singh would not be able to join us today. We miss her presence and hope to see her on the panel next year. And lastly, I would like to call upon our moderator, Professor Kishu Daswani, to please join us on stage. Professor Kishu Daswani has been a professor of law at the Government Law College, Mumbai for over 30 years. He is also a professor of international and humanitarian law at the Rotary Peace and Conflict Resolution Center at Chulalongkorn University of Bangkok in Thailand. He has conducted over 50 workshops in peace and conflict resolution in colleges with Indian and international students. He is also a visiting professor at the Naval War College of Goa. I would now like to invite Professor Daswani to kindly offer his opening remarks.
Good evening, respected Chief Guest, Justice Kureshi, Madam Principal, my professors, Professor in Charge, Mrs. Shweta, my panelists. You know, in school, there was this phrase that you're the odd man out. Just look at this panel. A round of applause, a massive, massive round of applause to Government Law College and the Debating Society. I think this is the first time in this college, excluding me, we have an all-woman panel. You know, this is, ma'am, congratulations. Now, so herein comes on me the task of setting the tone for today's debate, and that is the Uniform Civil Code, Search for Unity in a Diverse India. Now, the topic is controversial, and that's why we are here today, and that's why this hall is full. And Madam Principal gave very, very good reasons why the UCC should be there. Ma'am, you forgot one important thing. They don't have to study Family Law 1 and Family Law 2. There will be just one subject for the law students now, you know. So if anything, you know, you may want to, and I credit this particular bit of wisdom to my fellow colleague, Dr. Shweta. She said, you know, I don't have to teach Family Law 2 anymore. Now, beyond family law, yes. So, now, why should there be a UCC, and why is it so important to address this today? So to start off with, in the Constitution debates, the Uniform Civil Code was supposed to be in the fundamental rights. The debate went on, and K.M. Munshi and Ailyawadi said this should be a part of the fundamental rights, but it was pushed away to the directive principles, saying that India is not ready for a Uniform Civil Code. A bit of a dichotomous argument, because simultaneously there was preparation for the Hindu code. So big question mark comes, was Hindu society ready for a code? But India was not ready for a Uniform Civil Code. Now, having said that this is a part of the directive principles of state policy, it is the mandate of the state to pursue these principles. Is there an echo coming? Yeah. Just take care of the echo, yeah. Okay, so it's the mandate of the state to pursue the directive principles, notwithstanding the fact that the directive principles, and if you read Minerva Wills, is subordinate to fundamental rights. So we have to keep the fundamental rights paramount while we pursue the directive principles of state policy. The second reason is the Supreme Court has time and again said to the legislature, draft a Uniform Civil Code, not once, not twice, 17 times. There are innumerable judgments which say, draft the Uniform Civil Code. Maybe there's an element of frustration in the Supreme Court trying to balance individual personal rights with constitutional rights. And probably the source of resolution of this, the court thinks, would be the Uniform Civil Code. The third reason why this is important today is there are elections. No? The Uniform Civil Code, you know, comes up every time before elections, and don't discount this fact that this is just another electoral promise, because the government that we have today has got a sufficient majority to to live up to its promises and actually enforce the Uniform Civil Code. So the Honorable Prime Minister has time and again said that we need to enforce the Uniform Civil Code, and being an electoral promise, we are probably sitting at a point in time in our 75-year-old history when the Uniform Civil Code may actually be implemented. In what avatar, we do not know, but there is a definite vision down, and there's a definite expectation that the UCC is going to come. The fifth reason why the Uniform Civil Code is important today is because the 22nd Law Commission is being asked to look at the UCC once again. You are aware that the 21st Law Commission looked at the UCC, and the conclusion of the commission was, it is not necessary nor is it desirable. Now, this is just 4 years ago. So, kind of, how you have to give exams again and again, ATKT, after trying, keep trying. So maybe we go to the Law Commission again and see, maybe there's a change of view, maybe there's a different consensus in the country as of now, whether the Uniform Civil Code should come. And maybe the Law Commission's report, after taking opinion, would come to a different conclusion and a different consensus. That is the 22nd Law Commission. So why is there a debate at all? Why is the UCC not happening? And the answer is, today, India is probably more polarized than ever before. And this polarization is not coming due to disinformation, misinformation, malinformation. It is coming merely due to lack of information. See, we are all individuals and we have an identity. Students sitting here, you are a Mumbaikar, you are from Maharashtra, you're a son, you're a daughter, you're a GLC alumni, or each of these of our identities are there. But one of the core identities we have is religion and faith, which is sacrosanct. It is very, very sacrosanct. It is not just an attribute we picked up. It's an attribute that has come to us from our family, from the people we feel closest with, from our parents, from our grandparents. And religion is one of those identifying features of us that ought not to be touched. And if it is touched, there is instant resistance. Now the question lies is, how do we address this instant resistance? Is there a misconception, as Madam Principal said, that the majority issues would override on the minority? Would the majority impose its will on the minority? And for this, we have to understand what the Uniform Civil Code is. Which nobody can do right now because there is no draft. But you see, in the absence of the draft, the debate is not meaningless. It is more meaningful because this debate and discussion and what the panelists will have will probably go to the makers or the drafters of the code so that there would be an automatic consensus in the country. Now, let's take the broad features of the Uniform Civil Code. Now, there are many aspects of our religion. And mind you, the Uniform Civil Code is not going to touch those aspects. A Hindu can do Ganga Snan, a Muslim can pray 5 times a day, somebody can do Feras, somebody can do Nikah. These cultural elements are not going to be touched by the Uniform Civil Code. What is going to be touched by the Uniform Civil Code is 3 or 4 basic features which relate to your personal law in civil life, that being marriage, succession, adoption, and guardianship. So far, we have made out a very strong case for the Uniform Civil Code to be there. Then why is there a doubt? Because the mandate given is that this Uniform Civil Code is for national integration and unity. An argument that would presuppose that are we disintegrating as a nation if there is no Uniform Civil Code? The other argument given is that this is for the empowerment of women. And naturally so it is, and women definitely need to be empowered. And if I do take the Hindu code, The real equality to women did not come with the Hindu code. The real equality for women in co-parsonry came in 2005 and in fact much later now in 2020. So growth of women empowerment is an organic process. Are you telling me the Uniform Civil Code is one magic wand? That I use it and women will get empowered? Is there other ways to empower women? When we do talk of uniformity, it's a very, very dangerous word. In fact, flexibility gives consensus. Uniformity is enforcement. And as we do talk of India, and as our chief guest pointed out, the diversity that we have in India, can we have a one-size-fits-all solution? Is that even possible? When we are trying to touch on religion, something that is so close to us and something that identifies us, and most of us would agree that in India, it is something who we are. And with these questions, I leave it to my panelists to move forward and tell us their views on, is the Uniform Civil Code necessary today? Will it bring unity in a diverse India? Are there any other ways where we can achieve the same? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here as a speaker for this panel. I think my views on UCC are very well articulated. I've been in a lot of debates on television. Zakia and me have been in several panels together. And thank you, sir, for arguing the point both ways, for and against. I really like that. So the question is, do we need a uniform civil code? And more importantly, why did the 21st Law Commission said that it's not necessary, not desirable, just 4 or 5 years ago? And what has changed from that point to this point? And why is the government pushing it today? So it's generally believed for empowerment of women, empowerment of all women. My concern is uniformity necessary for gender justice? Or one of the questions, sir, raised by you, can gender justice be achieved without uniformity? Today we have diverse laws. These are my opening remarks before the question-answer session starts. I just want to flag this point. We seem to equate uniformity with gender justice. That with uniformity, gender justice will come. With uniformity, women will be empowered. But I believe otherwise. Not necessarily with uniformity, gender justice will come. Gender justice has to be brought in very actively within different personal laws. And that will be much more constructive and harmonious. For instance, as mentioned, Hindu law, there are many aspects of Hindu law which are not gender just. They're traditional, they're legal, and there is the cultural. There are lots of aspects in Hindu law which are gender discriminatory. Somebody mentioned dowry death. Before dowry death, dowry itself, or the ways of marriage. So, or in the Muslim law, there are lots of ways in which women are discriminated. But can it go with reform from within each religion? I belong to the Christian faith, and the Christian law was very discriminatory against women. Christian women fought very hard. They negotiated with the church and the state and brought in reform. And today our law is very gender just in every aspect. Women have the same right as men. A few years ago they didn't have. But today we do have. So if it is possible for the Christian community, will it not be possible for the Muslim community or the Hindu community or other communities? So we need to explore that. And why I am saying this is the issue is very contentious. There are lots of concerns among minorities. There are lots of concerns among various cultural different segments of society. And there is a fear among the minorities that will a majority law will be enforced on us as minorities. And that is a very genuine concern. And in today's time, all the more relevant, because there is so much of confrontation that's going on. There is a majoritarian atmosphere that's prevailing. There is Islamophobia that's prevailing in our country. And some of these we are not able to mention in a forum like this. But I think when we're discussing the Uniform Civil Code, it becomes very necessary. So to have a Uniform Civil Code, you have to have a buy-in. If it was that simple, we would have had a draft by now. We don't have a draft. So the question, if it is so simple, just marriage, divorce, tonight we can draft one. Tomorrow we can draft one. When the government declared that there will be a Uniform Civil Code, that time they could have come out with a draft straight away. That shows it is not that simple an exercise. It's a very complicated exercise. A Hindu Code Bill took 15 years, from 1941 to 1955-56. That also with lot of debate, lot of contentions, etc. And partially. Finally, the HUF property rights were enacted only in 2005, and finally it came in 2020. So that is how complicated, even for one community. Among the Muslims, there's a Shia, there's a Sunni, there are different inheritance rights, etc. A lot of these things are there. How are we going to bring them on the same platform? So here the question is, we need to have a lot of dialogue. We need to have trust in each other. We need to have faith in each other, which we lack today. The political atmosphere does not allow us to trust each other. We are very insulated. We are very isolated within our community norms. And there's a constant fear that we will be trampled upon, particularly if you are a minority. So these fears have to go. There has to be open dialogue. And we have to have much more buy-in from different communities in order to reach there to prepare a draft. So I hope we will have greater clarity when other speakers also speak, and we will be able to proceed. But that doesn't have to wait till gender justice is achieved. We can straight away discuss gender justice. We can see where we are lacking in each personal law and bring in the necessary reform. These are just my opening comments. I will start with this, and we'll hear all the panelists and all the questions. And if necessary, I will bring in more clarity later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
So you can take this one.
Thank you, ma'am, for your opening remarks and for bringing out the fact that there has to be a buy-in and consensus, and there has to be trust building. And I think that is the essence. I think what the Law Commission is trying to do is bring about consensus. And from what I understand, the Uttarakhand government has actually gone ahead and has received almost 60,000 responses about the Uniform Civil Code that they do plan to put in. Interestingly, the Uttarakhand government has a committee which has got, I think, 2 judges, 1 bureaucrat, I think, right? And 1 social activist and a dean of a university. Interestingly, there is no religious expert on that committee, which is supposed to be drafting the Uniform Civil Code. Thank you for your comments. Ma'am, can I ask Ms. Almeida to please give her opening remarks?
Friends,
I come in from my experience of engaging with women, with human beings, with various stakeholders in the law, from being a lawyer, a human rights activist, a women's rights activist, a writer, and also a teacher. I mean, freelance. So in this process, when we are talking of unity and we are talking of diversity, I'd like to add one more dimension, the historical spatial diversity. So there is also that diversity in India. We come from different historical backgrounds. We come from different, different legal systems that have operated in the past, and different laws that have operated. And in this context, I would like to place on record the experiences from Goa, which has a near total uniform civil code, not totally uniform, a near total uniform. And let us look at what are the advantages or disadvantages of it being near totally uniform, and what are the advantages or disadvantages of the diversity there is in it, and what are the yardsticks with which we are going to look at this unity or the diversity. So let us say we are talking of uniformity across religions. Yes, with regard to a lot of provisions, we do have uniformity across religions. But let me tell you that the word uniformity is an empty word if it's not populated with some parameters which will define that uniformity. So you can have provisions which are uniform across religions in discrimination. So they can be uniform across religions, but they can be uniform in discrimination against certain sections of society. For example, we have the concept of matrimonial property rights in Goa, which is a very good concept. But that concept, when you're looking at this concept of matrimonial property rights, and you say it's across religions, right? Now, you have a provision within that the management of the property, the marital property, shall be the prerogative of the male spouse. So you have uniformity in discrimination across religions and across, whether somebody is secular also. Secular as in being an atheist or an agnostic. So across all these criteria. So that's one thing. Next, let us talk of uniformity across genders. Does it make sense to have uniformity against genders when we live in an unequal society, a gender unequal society, is the question. So if you have uniformity across gender, and we are living in a patrilocal society, we are living in a society where women are not conditioned to look at, when they're registering their marriage, to look at that form, what is filled in that form. You see? Now we live in such a society. Can you have, because it signifies lack of trust if she looks at what is written in that form, you see. So if we have such a gender unequal society, can you have something which is the same across genders? So just being uniform across genders doesn't count. So that's why I say uniformity is almost like an empty word. And so is diversity sometimes. Now, uniformity, we've talked about uniformity across religions, we've talked about uniformity across gender. Now let's look at uniformity across places. Now when the Constitution discussed the Uniform Civil Code, when the Constituent Assembly discussed the Uniform Civil Code, Goa was not part of India. It was annexed in 1961. So therefore, Goa was not part of this discussion. The special status provisions which are there now today, as far as Meghalaya, as far as some of the northeastern states, okay, those were not there. They've come in as A, B, C, 3, A, B, C, D, E, etc. So these discussions happened afterwards in the context of formation of states, formation from union territories to states, etc. So those special statuses came. So therefore, this Uniform Civil Code that was discussed in the Constituent Assembly at that time did not take into account this diversity across spaces. So therefore, we have to look at this as well in terms of uniformity across locations, in terms of their histories, their political histories, their legal histories, etc. Having said that, then I would like to also, very often we talk of uniform civil code in terms of the substantive part of the law, but you cannot divorce the substantive part of the law from the procedural, because at the bottom line has to be the issue of access to justice. So if procedurally there are no sufficient compliances, there are no sufficient enabling provisions for everyone to access justice because of the way society is structured, then the substantive provisions make no sense. And here I come to the aspect of those provisions which are not uniform in the Goa law. Now, as far as there are some provisions which are not uniform, which are problematic. For example, we have a chapter called the Customs and Usages of Gentile Hindus. And in that, there is a provision for adoption if the female, if there is no male child, and if there is no male child, and and for a female child, if there is no female child until the wife attains the age of 30. Now tell me, this is a problematic provision, right? In terms of the diversity, this is a problematic provision. On the other side, there is a provision, like somebody said before me, that we have a diversity when it comes to marriages, etc. Now, and how will that affect? And also the fact that people are religious. Now, if people are religious, everyone, even though the law in Goa has been applicable for almost 150 plus years, still, and marriage, civil registration of marriage is compulsory all these years. Still, a lot of people, after they've civilly registered their marriage, will say, I have done the registration, but I have yet to get married. Because they are talking about the religious solemnization. Now, we have a provision when it comes to Catholics, which is different from others, that the church cannot solemnize a marriage unless there is a intent to marry declared before the civil registrar. So now, since people value their the religious solemnization and recognize it, and they may not even know about all these procedures, when they go to the church to solemnize their marriage, the church will ask for that NOC from the registrar's office that they've declared their intent. One. So therefore, there is a compulsion to kind of engage with the state, and there's a compulsion to engage with the religious side of it as well. Now, what is the advantage of this? The church has a marriage formation course for solemnizing its marriage, which is then treated as a civil marriage after the church solemnizes it. When they do the marriage formation course, they also tell you about procedures about the fact that you decide about how you hold matrimonial property at the time of marriage. You can't decide that afterwards, and if you don't know it, you bad luck, because you decided at the time of marriage. So the church equips the person with that knowledge. The civil registrar does not equip you with that knowledge, which is the provision for the other communities, because they don't have this tie-up. So people sign in without knowing what they're signing into. So now I'm not saying, so the civil registrar could also have this provision where, there's some kind of a legal equipping of the couple, and also a provision to offset the whole thing of the social conditioning about not reading what's written in the form. So now there has been a demand from women's groups in Goa for incorporating this, but it hasn't happened. So at least there is that little opening in the door for the communities that have this tie-up, because they have these systems incorporated there. So this is what is meant by the advantage of legal pluralism. If you're not happy with what is happening at the religious, you have the option of registering a civil marriage without a tie-up with the church, A Catholic can do that. And if you're not happy with this, you can, if you're not, this is not a very good system as we would perceive it. We can go there and register it this way. So therefore, it enables you to shop for the appropriate law. Of course, this can be plus and minus because people may shop for the more oppressive law. I know, but it also gives you the possibilities of being able to access justice. So therefore, legal pluralism counts. We cannot lock it in one mode, and the question again will be, which mode will you have? And it does matter because in different communities, marriage is in one community, in one religion, marriage is a sacrament. In another religion, marriage is a contract. So now, what will you say in the law? If you say marriage is a sacrament, what you are saying is, in effect, you are enforcing the concept of a particular religion. So it's not so simple that your religious practices are divorced from religion. So on all these counts, I would say that let us discuss what are the core principles which should guide any family laws. And here again, I want to emphasize not just personal or not just religious laws, but also the so-called secular laws, like let's say Special Marriage Act or the Goa laws. You see, they also have their problems. So we need to discuss all of them and not lay also all the blame on any particular religious personal law. With this, I will. I'm sorry, I don't know if I've crossed my time or I've been oblivious.
We're gonna keep one of the kids down there to wave, yeah, something like that. We'll do that. Okay, but thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. A round of applause there. Before listening to you, I would have thought that the Goa Civil Code model would be something we could actually emulate. But you do seem to suggest that there is issues and caveats there as well. I really do not foresee the Uniform Civil Code being really that uniform without exceptions. Before the code is out as well, the political leadership is actually carving out exceptions and is promising, for example, the state of Nagaland, that we are going to exempt you from the Uniform Civil Code, which is really strange because Article 44 very clearly says, the state shall endeavor to secure for its citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. So it's not through all the religions of India, it's throughout the territory of India. And this puts another question. Secure for its citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory. A little question mark is still come if you're lawyering. Does it say that it is enforceable or is it available? And what ma'am just said, that you can actually do forum shopping, right? You could actually decide to get married under a different act if you are not comfortable with the law that is prevailing. And I think the Special Marriage Act is pretty much in place. You're not comfortable with the religion that you have or the laws that are there. You do have the Special Marriage Act, and maybe we'll come more to that later. Can I ask Ms. Zakia to give your comments, please? Yes.
Hi, friends. So 70 years after independence, when we look around at our country and our society, it is a mixed bag when it comes to gender justice and gender equality. And it is a good thing that we are here, we are discussing it all. Although Uniform Civil Code concerns all Indians, but I'll talk mainly based on my work, which is largely based into the Muslim community with the Muslim women. So as we all know, there's a context here which is very, very important. The Muslims are the largest minority of India. They are also amongst the most deprived communities in this country, economically speaking, educationally speaking, socially speaking. The participation of Muslims in all the activities around is very, very low. And this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of the committees appointed by Government of India, various committees appointed by the Government of India. And over and above the poverty and exclusion, there has always been the issue of communalism, and there has also been the issue of patriarchy and misogyny. And in the opening remarks, there was a mention about the Shah Bano case. So when it comes to the patriarchy ruling the roost, not much has changed between Shah Bano, that was 85-86, and now. Of course, barring the women-led movement against instant triple talaq, and all of us have seen that. Today, we are living in a highly polarized country. There is a climate of majoritarianism, there's a climate of hate. But the question of gender justice for Muslim women, is age-old. It is not something which arose in the last 10, 20 years. It is age-old. Because every time we talk about gender justice for Muslim women, we are told that Islam gave equal rights to women 1400 years ago, which is very true, because Allah created men and women as equal. But it is the authoritarian clergy, or all the figures who hold authority in religion, it's interpretations or misinterpretations by them which led to the condition of Muslim women, where we do not have a specified age of marriage. We are still ruled by the archaic Shariat Application Act, which is pretty much silent on all the issues which are very, very important in the life of a woman. So we don't know what should be the age of marriage. We are told it is puberty, which is highly inadequate, in today's day and age. We don't know which is a procedure for a just and fair divorce, because when we read the Quran, there is an insistence on a just and fair divorce. Divorce is considered something very bad. And should a divorce have to take place, it has to be done in a manner which is not detrimental to the weaker side, namely the woman. But where is that written down in law? So in the absence, what about the whole question of polygamy? So in the absence of reform in Muslim personal law, and thanks to there being no codified Muslim personal laws, Muslim women suffer in all aspects related to marriage and family, succession, adoption, guardianship. So much so that it has now, the political reality and the politicization of the Uniform Civil Code is, look at the plight of the Muslim woman. That is how it is being presented now. So Muslim women are entitled to legal protections just as all other Indian women are. I'm not saying that Hindu women are, they have defeated patriarchy. No, far from it, we all know it. But they enjoy certain legal protections thanks to the codified Hindu family laws. Of course, we have come a lot of distance, but we have a lot more distance to still traverse. So what we are seeking is legal parity for the Muslim women. And we are told that reform should come from within. So reform efforts have been made from within. In the recent past, the example is the movement against instant triple talaq. It was not about those 4 or 5 women who went to the Supreme Court. There were hundreds of women all across India in different states who spoke out for reform. And not just that, by and large, the whole community supported women's demand for reform. It was only the Orthodox clergy which was opposed to invalidating the instant triple talaq, which is not, by the way, which is not a method sanctioned by the Quran. If you look at the first affidavit, one of the first affidavits filed by the Personal Law Board, they came out openly defending the practice of instant triple talaq and also polygamy. And later on, they were kind of coerced into withdrawing their own affidavit. And Once the Supreme Court ruled and set it aside, they accepted it. But more than that, the whole community supported the women who were fighting against triple talaq. So yes, the community is prepared for change. The community, in fact, wants reform and wants the change. The only thing is that the political reality and the political milieu and the political compulsions do not allow those voices to come out. There are active vested interests who would not want that to happen, who would not want the reform to happen, who would not want the codification to happen. And personally, I have in the last 10 years become of the opinion, since there is going to be no reform, then our best bet is going to be the Uniform Civil Code. I have no qualms in accepting this, in saying this, because as an Indian citizen, I am also entitled to justice, which comes my way from the Constitution. And the Uniform Civil Code is very much part of my Constitution, so I'm entitled to that. And that brings me to my last point for the time being, that today it is a highly politicized issue because it has been brought up by the BJP. It has been part of the BJP RSS agenda for the last several decades. But I would also say that what prevents the other political parties who are in opposition from supporting the just demands of all women, including the Muslim women? Why do they concede that space? And then, we make it a BJP versus the rest kind of a debate where we don't want to move any further. So I would also like to, say that the small organized groups of secular progressive people in our country, they also need to come out openly in support of the just demands of the Muslim women. And it should not be always viewed from this prism of, because it was raised by the BJP, we have to somehow oppose it. Yeah. Thanks for the time being.
Thank you, Zakia. After you spoke, just realized, you're between a rock and a hard place. And it is really sad that you want the UCC for the wrong reasons. Can somebody tell me, as the Hindu code was put out, why not have a Muslim code as well? There was opposition to the Hindu code. You know that. There was large amount of Orthodox clergy in Hindu space also that opposed it. So is the Uniform Civil Code a solution for the plight of Muslim women today? That's a question I'd like to, probably pose to you a bit later. Or, is it like that you feel, look, there is no reform going to come in Muslim law, so Uniform Civil Code is my only hope. I would really like you to do a rethink. Do you think Uniform Civil Code will give you any rights at all? I'm going to come back to that question to you, and I really would want you to think about it. Is that going to be the solution, or is that going to be another problem? Yeah? Veena, all yours. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me here. Justice Kureshi, it's quite an honor to have heard you. Most of what my politics of Uniform Civil Code comes from my senior, Flavia Agnes, with whom I worked for many years. When I looked at the topic itself, saying Uniform Civil Code searching for unity in a diverse India, Uniform Civil Code is always spoken with two objectives. One is unity, and the second being gender justice. So when I saw the topic, I was a little disheartened, saying that, are we letting go of gender justice, and is this meant to only talk about unity of the country itself? I would want one day to see searching for justice in a discriminatory India or a discriminatory country, because it still exists today. We've heard most of the speakers, and being the last, is most of the points are already spoken about. And I think everyone's talked about religion, religious identity, insecurity, etc. So 1, of course, I speak as a lawyer. 2, I speak as a woman. 3, actually, also I'm an atheist. But however, I think religious identities no more is only a religious identity. It has also become political identity. Okay, it's very easy for me to say I'm an atheist, but in my name, in my body, somewhere resides my religion itself. So we still, for us, religion, whether one believes or doesn't believe, is a political and a very contested space and identity that resides in me. I think I would also like to look at, coming from that, also would like to look at how do we imagine this uniform civil code. For us to say whether uniform civil code will bring in unity, I do a lot of family law litigation. Leave alone unity in a country, unity in a family eludes us constantly. Okay, so if we think that we will get unity from merely bringing in a uniform law, okay, without changing the socio-political dynamics of the country, to me somewhere that vision and dream will remain a dream. Like we say, we have Flavia has written a lot about it, that whenever law comes from above, be it making bigamy illegal under the Hindu law, or even saying that law against dowry, etc. But these practices have continued to remain. So one of the reasons for saying reform from within is so that it comes from the people, and the implementation of itself will then be much more effective. So therefore, from a law from above may not necessarily actually give us a cohesive society that we may actually want. Like the 21st Law Commission report says, that let's bring a lot of all the religious laws to a kind of a parity, and then maybe a discussion on uniform civil code. But also speaking as a lawyer, what is this imagination of a uniform civil code that we have? Having practiced personal law, having practiced family law for a very long time now, the imagination of our law as of today is merely on marriage, divorce, custody, and maintenance. When we reimagine a uniform civil code, is this the only paradigm that we're going to talk about? We're talking about a uniform civil code in 2023. Will this law, it's just been 2 days since the Supreme Court actually dismissed the petition on marriage equality. So when we say the concept of marriage will change, then are we saying that, are we also talking about changing the nature of marriage so as to include same-sex marriages, so as to include queer marriages? Because we're not talking in isolation only of religion, is not my only identity. So therefore, then how does that, how do we bring that in? 2 is that there is also, when we talk of divorce, okay, how do we look at the whole concept of divorce? Are we talking, we're still in the regime of a fault ground divorce? Are we then talking about a no fault ground divorce? There is there is the complexity of politics. There is the complexity of identity, but there is always also a complexity of imagination of the law. So recently also the Supreme Court looked at irretrievable breakdown of marriage, but however did not really grant that. When we look at irretrievable breakdown of marriage, then how do we look at the whole concept of property? What is the property regime that we really want? Today we merely have the concept of maintenance and a lump sum maintenance that we talk about. Very, very few judgments have actually given you a lump sum maintenance. Lump sum maintenance, the courts have time and again said that will include house, will include A, B, C, D, etc. But however, when it comes down to the order, there are very few women who've actually got homes or residence. So what is the regime that we talk about? Do we talk about common property? How do you divide this? While in cases of insurance, etc., the courts have recently looked at contribution of women to making a home. But that has not really permeated into this whole concept of maintenance. Maintenance still today is only on whether I have the ability to earn, look after myself, etc. Just give me one moment, I'll finish. Okay, so that is one. So how do we reimagine it? And like it was mentioned by Albertina too, within the existing law, we already have the Special Marriage Act, which is often looked at as the optional uniform civil code. How many people have really used it? Do we really want a law? If we really want it, the law provides you with 250 rupees or how much ever the clerk and the registrar, the clerk may charge you. There's a possibility of registering your marriage. However, our marriages still take place as per Karan Johar's Bollywood style rather than what the legal regime has put in place. So when we have not even accessed the Special Marriage Act, will we then, if it's already optional, why then do you need a compulsory uniform civil code? There always has to be a choice. Yours is a generation of choice. Choice of identity, choice of religion, choice of what you want to do, where you want to stay. Then I think uniform civil code has to also remain an optional code. Thank you.
Thank you, Veena. You brought out the nuances on the ground, so it's very good to do this academic discussion and pretend the law is on one way, but the nuances on the ground are very different. And from what you told us, gender justice is a long way off. And I also like the fact that you brought about that should the UCC be an option? And do we already have an option in the Special Marriage Act, which could be tweaked around to deliver the same purpose what the UCC is trying to achieve? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask one round of questions to the panelists, and the panelists are free to pitch in that question as we go. After that, I think the audience is waiting to ask a lot of questions. Is that right? Yes? No? Yeah, I can see a lot of nods there. So you are aware that the Debating Society gives a prize to the best question, right? Yeah, so get your questions ready. Yeah, there's a prize for the best question. The panelists are not going to get any prize for the best answer, yeah? So you can start planning your questions. So we do one round of questioning, and then we'll go. Flavia, ma'am.
You asked from different order.
No, I want to ask you first, because I'm very disturbed by what you said.
Oh, you are?
Yes, so I have friends who are Catholics.
Okay.
And from what I believe, and maybe you spoke about gender justice reaching out to Christians in a big way. From what I believe, that a Catholic would find it difficult to divorce. That's because there would be an annulment in a church, but probably not a divorce. Maybe you could clarify that point for us. And the second question that I want to ask you is, which is actually unconnected with this. This was a personal question. The other is another question is, when you said there is a fear that the majority is going to put their law on the minority, that this is not going to be a uniform civil code, it's going to be a Hindu civil code that's going to come. That's a kind of apprehension. Now, my question to you is, when we ask for uniformity, this uniformity is going to be tested on some template. That template will be Constitution. So if the Constitution is applicable to all of us, now assume the Uniform Civil Code does come. It cannot definitely go against what the constitutional values, the constitutional morality is. So why are we viewing it as a majority code over a minority? Why don't we look at a constitutionally valid code which will achieve the elements of gender justice that we are looking at, applicable to all of us? So these are the two questions.
Okay. Let me answer the first question about the Christian law or validity of divorce among the Christians. Here it's a little bit complicated, but I will explain because I'm very thorough with this, being a Christian myself and having studied the Christian law very thoroughly and represented women in this case. The Christian law has two parts of it. One is the Indian Christian Marriage Act and the Indian Divorce Act, enacted in 1869 and 1872. It's very ancient. And then we have the church wedding and the church annulment. And both are necessary, and the minute you register your marriage in church, automatically there's a civil registration. You don't have to differently register civilly. Now when you divorce, it doesn't automatically happen. So you can opt for a divorce in the court, which will entitle you to remarry, not in church, but under the law. If you want a church remarriage, then you'll have to go through the church process. Now, as a lawyer, I will only confine to the civil law and not necessarily the church law. Very difficult to convince my Christian clients about this, but there is the possibility, there is the law. And this law was not gender just. The grounds for divorce were very discriminatory against women. Men could divorce on the ground of adultery alone. Women had to prove an additional ground, either desertion or cruelty, and only then you will be entitled to divorce. Now that got changed. So now today, the grounds are equal to men and women, and so you can have a divorce under the civil law, in the court of law, for Christian women, need not go to church at all. And you can marry under the law, same law, a civil marriage. But the church still continues with the view that what God has put together, no man will put asunder. So that's the principle that prevails. And the church has a great hold on the faithful. So no matter how much I convince my clients, they will not take my word. And that's why you get this. It's very difficult for Christians to get a divorce divorce in church. But you don't have to get a divorce in church. You can get a divorce in court. And that's not difficult. That is the same as every other religion. So this concept is rather little difficult for people to accept, particularly Christians to accept and Christian women to accept. But it's possible. It's not that it's not possible at all. And the grounds are similar as Hindu marriage or other marriages, Parsi marriage, Christian marriage, it's all similar grounds. There was a discrimination about maintenance, how much you were entitled to, and now that's also gone. So you are entitled, as Veena said, not much maintenance, but still you are entitled to the same as in any other law. So this is for your first question. Satisfactory answer? Or should I walk greater extent?
I'm not a Christian, so I don't need to be satisfied on this one, but thank you for the explanation. I'm sure the students would really benefit by the explanation.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
A little complicated, but this is how it is under the law. And the church is changing, and this annulment is quite easy now. It's not very difficult at all. It's not even a cruelty, but incompatibility also is recognized today. So the church is also moving ahead. So it's not stagnated where it was at the beginning of the century or mid-century. So we have made progress. Okay, your second question about the apprehension of a enforcement of a majoritarian agenda upon the minority. Now this is coming not of a legal framework, but it is a fear in society. Why even Muslim women, though they are oppressed, etc., and they want change, are opposed to uniform civil code. Zakia said that I want a uniform civil code because reform within is not possible. This is her view. Is the whole community of women, Muslim women, endorsing this view? Are they apprehensive? And why are they apprehensive? This current milieu, there is a definitely anti-minority bias here. So that is what is apprehensive, brings the apprehension. And also the question is why the 21st Law Commission said it is not desirable and it's not necessary at this point. Why did this 21st Law Commission said that, and why did the 21st Law Commission very pointedly bring out discrimination in different personal laws, the Parsi law, the Christian law, every law, they brought out the discrimination. 5 years government did not do a thing on these recommendations, nothing at all. There were so many areas that reform could have been brought, but they didn't do. And suddenly they have come that we'll have a uniform civil code. So suddenly why this government, why at this point, why on the eve of elections? There is a lot of questions that are being raised. So the apprehension is that in this current milieu, when there is no dialogue, when there is no discussion, there is no buy-in with the concerned parties, just to say let's have a uniform civil code, there is a fear among the minorities. So I don't know whether it is a genuine fear or whether it is a presumed fear or whether it is an imaginary fear, but this has to be taken out and there has to be an openness, both sides, and there has to be a dialogue to see all the points that are necessary. But what I find very important is the point that Veena has brought up about the newer areas of marriage, like same-sex marriage, marriage equality, what the Supreme Court has said, etc. And the concept of marriage has to be changed. It has to be broadened. It cannot be in the same mold that a male and a female get married, they produce children, they have property, etc. And the man will control that property. So we have a community of property, equal rights to women, gender parity, different set of marriage relationships, etc. And within that we need to look at it, but we are now looking at the same mold and we're just saying bring uniformity within that. We're not widening the concept itself, and that is very disturbing. So we have to broaden the concept, and in order to take out this fear among the minorities, and we have to have greater buy-in and greater talking to each other, the minority communities in particular.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And possibly what you say that, maybe the fear is imaginary. But then again, we also have to see how the remaining laws are being framed. As of now, the anti-conversion laws are actually creating greater diversity in diversity. I mean, if there is a desire for unity, you would actually allow conversion easily. And in fact, the district magistrate is somebody who decides whether you can convert or not. A question for Albertina. Albertina, you did bring about certain elements of uniform discrimination.
Yeah.
Right? There is uniform discrimination. And is there a fear that there will be uniform discrimination in the Uniform Civil Code? Now, with your experience in Goa, and this is something I'm concerned about, I don't see people touting Goa as a great example. If I was promoting the Uniform Civil Code, I say, hey, look, you know what? Here is Goa. Here's a state that's at Uniform Civil Code. We've got such fantastic results here. Why is it that people are not touting Goa as a great example? Now, we do have to realize that Goa is, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, a fairly homogeneous community. Unlike, or is it not? I don't know. Maybe this is but compared to the rest of India, we could possibly say it is more homogeneous than the rest of India. Maybe not. Okay, you're saying not. Fine. So I'm just trying to understand, why is Goa not being put forward as example, and what would be your recommendation to the 22nd Law Commission? That look, I've had X amount of experience in Goa. There is good, there's bad. This is what you must do. This is what you must not do. For the Uniform Civil Code.
Okay. So I begin with your the first point is that whether about the homogeneity, I want to say. Yes. I just want to say that we are not homogeneous as a community. We have all the differences, the positive diversities as well as the negative diversities. So we have people following different faiths, people not following faiths, etc. That diversity. The negative diversity of caste system, etc. Very much there in Goa. Maybe not so blatant and gross like it seems in the rest. But we are very good at camouflaging our that diversity. So there will be discrimination at the time of marriage. There is discrimination in the remote villages, etc., where people will not be able to, where people will be given water in their hands, so we don't have homogeneity. By the way, there is also in the chapter of Code and Customs of Gentile Hindus, there is a provision that, you know, the Hindus could, the Brahmins can swear on the, you know, Bhagavad Gita, and the others can be swearing on the coconut, etc. So it's not followed, okay? And the argument that the government gives is, it is there on the statute book, but it's not followed. But my point is, why keep it on the statute book? Just repeal it. Show the rest of the country an example. Repeal these problematic provisions, which are casteist as well. Yeah, the second question, sorry. Recommendation. So we did give recommendations to the Law Commission. We said that you need to have a widespread consultative process, not the kind of consultative process that we are having now. It needs to be much, in fact, it stems from our own experience in Goa. As I said, I was on the Family Law Review Committee, and I got onto that committee because the women's movement was strong, and the various women's groups together said, you can't have an all-male committee and an all-lawyer committee, and one which does not represent the various stakeholders in the family. And we fought for that, and we ensured, and then the government, and then we said, besides that, it's not enough if you have representation. Because, let me be very honest, I don't have all the experience of Goa, small as the state is. I don't have within me all the experience of Goa. You see, so if you put it open for a consultative process, a wider consultative process, you bring in all that. By wider consultative process, I don't mean the Law Commission saying, you all send in your comments, because it also has to be an informed discussion. So many people might give suggestions of something that's already in the law if they don't know it's in the law. So then it's the kind of consultation that needs to be there for this is of a different sort. So therefore, the point is that you can't have a law without that kind of wide consultative process. So I was included because the women's groups recommended my name, and I was the only female. I did challenge, but there were other stakeholders that we said, and this is something else that I also want to emphasize, that there are other kinds of stakeholders in the family. It's not only on the basis of gender. There are disabled persons, there is ageism, there is ability, there is discrimination on these bases. So you cannot have a uniform law across abilities. You cannot have so you need special provisions. And that's why we talk of where we come to the whole point of the constitutional, imperative of substantive equality. So question of substantive equality within the family. So there have to be certain core principles against which any law has to be tested. And here again I want to emphasize not just any religious law, but also the non-religious law, like the Special Marriage Act, which as you can see was challenged in the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Albertina. Thank you very much. From your experience, one very interesting point you made about a consultative process. Now, a consultative process doesn't always mean there'll be consensus, and it also depends who is holding the brief for that consultative process. As of today, the persons who would definitely oppose the Uniform Civil Code would be the tribals, because they have got certain special marriage laws, certain special succession laws. Now, who is holding the mandate for the tribal community in India? And the answer is the left. You see, there's an empty space. The left has taken over that space, and by default, the left is not to be listened to because the listeners are on the right. I hope I got that right. See, so somewhere down the line, it's important who is holding that space in consultativeness and consensus. I thought that was a...
Can I just So I also wanted to say the other thing, when you talked of anti-conversion laws, I'm not talking in terms of, the law is seemingly not discriminating against any religion. It's talking about anti-conversion. But if you look at the practice, who is being targeted through these anti-conversion laws, that tells you something about the governance within which a law is located. So it's the political realities count a lot. So therefore, it's, however even gender just, like, we have the Domestic Violence Act, which I mean, we all were part of, trying to get this law enacted and, discussing various provisions. But at the end of the day, what is the political climate to have it really enforced in its letter and spirit? So if that is not there, the courts now don't dispose of the cases within so many days as it was intended to be, 60 days. And they can't also, because they're not enabled the support systems that are required to dispose it of. So that political will counts. And in the absence of that political will, any law can be turned against you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, since that you mentioned this, a question was asked in Parliament. How many cases of love jihad have been reported? And the junior Home Minister answered the question. Any guesses how many cases of love jihad have been reported in India?
None.
The answer is 0. There have been 0 cases reported and the Home Minister answered. But obviously we can see the law that is, seemingly out there to control this major incursion in our country in terms of religion. I'll move to Zakia. Zakia, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. No, because I don't want her to go for me, in some way. So, now there is the Uniform Civil Code. So I'm going to put this in very crude language. There is a community that has got polygamy. Unko 4 बीवी हैं. UCC लगा दो, problem खलास हो जाएगा. This is what we hear. So the point being that, is that why UCC is wanted by people without any application of mind? And why I say without any application of mind, do you know what is the percentage of polygamy in Muslims in India? I'll give you some figures that have come from the National Family Health Survey. It is 1.9%. And you know what's the percentage of polygamy in Hindus? 1.3%. No, it's slightly lower. But if you go by the total number of people in terms of, this 1.3% polygamy is there. And the point that you are making of substantive rights, in terms of procedural issues. So polygamy has not gone away in Hinduism. In fact, amongst scheduled tribes, it's 2.4%, it's 1.3 in scheduled castes, it's 1.2 in OBC. And these are not old figures. These are figures of 2015, 2020. So is this going to really be the solution? And I mean, that's why I said it's a difficult question, because I understand where you're coming from. You're saying, look, nothing is happening, at least give me this, if nothing else. But will this change the ground reality, is what Albertina was saying. Will it change the ground reality, or is that we need something more? And as I asked you earlier, will this bring other problems with it?
Yeah, so what you're saying is very important. And I also acknowledge that legal reform is one significant part of a much larger process of social reform. So that is the broad principle we have to keep in mind. But having said that, there are certain non-negotiables. That includes age of marriage. That there are judgments by the Delhi High Court, by the Punjab and Haryana High Court, where a Muslim marriage, where the girl is 15-year-old, the marriage is held as valid. Now, we don't want it to be criminalized, no doubt. But that is no excuse that Islam considers puberty as the age of marriage. It cannot form the common sense of the community that it's okay to marry a girl who is 15-year-old. And it's a huge, huge problem. Look at West Bengal, look at look at Assam, it's a huge, huge problem. And the similar thing applies to the polygamy question also. Yes, the incidence of polygamy is, just less than 1% difference between the Hindu community and the Muslim community. But the Hindu woman has recourse to the bigamy law. And the common sense is not that I am a Hindu and I'm entitled to more than one wife. It was so. It was so at the, prior to independence, but it was eradicated by the Hindu Marriage Act. So to me, in fact, this illustrates the uniformity. In a very personal sense, I feel uniformity is about eradicating discriminatory and unjust practices. It is about taking away the legal sanction which has been given to unjust and misogynist practices in the name of culture, in the name of religion, in the name of ethnicity. So that's the beginning we have to make. So we cannot persist that since the difference is very narrow, then why insist on having it legally? In any case, you are not marrying, more than once. So let's, take it off the statute books. So there are a few non-negotiables. One is the age of marriage. It should be, there is reason that this country decided to have it 18 and 21. And it should apply to everybody. It's for the welfare of the bride and the groom that it is decided this age. It should apply. Then the question of strictly no to unilateral divorce. Because what has happened, the Supreme Court ruled out the instant triple talaq. But still, talaq is happening by and large now through the talaq-e-ihsan method. Talaq-e-hasan method, which is again three divorces pronounced over a period of 3 months, but it's unilateral. The wife has no say. So we want the talaq-e-ihsan method, which involves, minimum 90 days period of dialogue, discussion, even arbitration and mediation, which are such modern concepts which are existing in the Islamic jurisprudence. So we want, the unilateralism from the talaq to go away. We want, of course, no polygamy. We want the mother to be entitled equally to guardianship and custody of children. How can you exclude the mother? By definition, from guardianship and custody of children, which is causing a huge, huge problem to hundreds of women. Their children being snatched away from them because of this understanding that the father has the right to guardianship of a child. So these are, and of course, share in property and inheritance. So these are some 4 or 5 non-negotiables. Ideally, they should come about through reform and codification of Muslim personal law. But since the powers that be would not entertain any talk about that, I feel that Flavia raised those fears that uniform civil code it may be majoritarian, but these 4 or 5 non-negotiables will be there. Because these 4 or 5 benefits are already enjoyed by Hindu women. So that doesn't make it Hindu attributes. Because marriage used to be a janam ka bandhan just before the Hindu code bill. The zamindars and the elites used to have 3 or 4 wives. They used to have child brides. They used to have 13-year-old women, 13-year-old girl as a wife, 14-year-old girl as a wife, which is no more the reality. So you want to call it Hindu laws? So be it. It's actually gender justice by another name. So let's not So let's not be let's not get caught into these binaries, because the world has advanced. Indians have moved on. Even the Muslim community is moving on, and this कि इनको 4 शादियां करने का क्यों हक है? That is the one of the arguments which is given by the Hindutva proponents, and they somewhere I feel there's an element of jealousy also. कि इनको क्यों 4 शादियों करने हक है? So
Zakia, I hope you're not asking that the Hindu code be rolled back now and be removed and everybody can marry. Yeah.
So we are asking, actually what we are asking for is something very, very basic.
I completely see your point, and this is what you're telling me about, divorce, age of marriage, custody, polygamy, all these issues. But the devil is not outside. If you look at the ground reality, the devil is within. You mentioned the Orthodox clergy. So it is not that everybody in India is opposing this. The consensus, as was said earlier, must come from bottom up and not top down within the community.
Yeah.
So when the community does move forward, I mean, there could be so many other issues, FGM, etc. So it has to come from within rather than a top-down approach.
So the women's voices which are demanding these are from within. So it's just that whether we want to give space to these voices or not. It's not as though when the Hindu code bills were brought that the whole Hindu society was standing up in support. No, there was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of opposition by even those who were sitting in the government and the priestly class and so many conservative politicians who were congressmen at that time. So, but nevertheless, the reform was brought. And it was brought under the constitutional principles of justice and equality. So why are we continuing even 70 years after independence to deny those rights and that parity to the Muslim women? And let me also, since there was a discussion about the fears in the minorities and in the Muslim community, it's that fear is also because any talk of reform, and see, I'm not saying that UCC is the answer. All the discussions, I don't want to. I'm nobody to nullify all the discussions that we have had in the last couple of hours. But there is so much demonization of the Uniform Civil Code. No wonder a Muslim woman will stand up and say, no, I don't want a Uniform Civil Code. Because even to get the Muslim women to agree to be part of the movement against instant triple talaq, it took so many years' work. We took out all those verses in the Quran which talk about gender justice, the verses pertaining to marriage and divorce in particular. We translated them into all Indian languages. We distributed so many books. We did so many meetings, so many trainings. It took us about 4.5 to 5 years to build that awareness. Now, we are a ragtag group of women. Every time we are not going to have the energies and the resources and the time to do that. It is the obligation of the state. It is the obligation of whoever fancies themselves as community leaders. It is the obligation of the political parties, the opposition, the political opposition. Because the political opposition continues to see Muslim community still, with that chashma of 85, 86, when Shah Banu was given maintenance and there was a huge opposition from the community. But reality has drastically changed since then. So there was when the movement against triple talaq was taking place, what did the secular opposition parties do? None of them, spoke out openly. So, till date, I don't know what is the official position of the Congress party on the issue of triple talaq. Individual MPs coming and supporting in their individual capacities because they are progressive persons, that doesn't matter. Why can't the TMCs, the Congresses, the Samajwadi parties, the NCPs, the whoever who claim to be secular openly say that we support the just and fair demand of the Muslim women? कुछ नहीं लूट जाएगा. अगर औरतों को हक दे देंगे तो क्या समाज लूट जाएगा? So it's also fueling the Hindutva politics. It suits the Hindutva politics that nobody should talk about reform. A bit like everybody who is on the side of Israel loves Hamas. Because it makes so much easier to, condone everything that Israel does because of the acts of Hamas. So it's a similar situation. Let's accept it, and I think let's take the bull by the horn, which is what is the need of the hour. Sorry.
Well, Zakia, very well said, very well said. You know what, I don't think you're a ragtag group of women I think you're doing a wonderful job. I mean, not only where you're doing, but right here as well for enlightening us on the, as I said before, between the rock and a hard place. Yes. You wanted to say something? No, that is, okay. Okay, Veena, now, I want to ask you a question. And this is, what Zakia just said, that look, we need reform in the Muslim community. There is no gender justice in the Muslim community. Flavia seems to suggest that the Christian community is fairly sorted. Maybe there could be some improvements there, but the Muslim community is really suffering, and the Uniform Civil Code would be the solution. Now, my question to you is, if the government has a majority today, why not have a Muslim code? Why not specifically remove? And it has been happening, whether it's Shah Banu, Shaira Banu, whether it's Sarla Mudgal. Slowly, the changes have been coming, but obviously they are too slow and there is no political will. If there was genuine political will, why not introduce a Muslim code which would take away the gender inequalities in Islam and give them right, and you have a majority in parliament. And the connected question is, why is there no Hindu debate on the Uniform Civil Code? Because a Uniform Civil Code is going to impact a large number of Hindus equally. And probably you could throw some light on that in the context of HUF, in the context of certain tribal rights, in the context of, in South India, it is perfectly all right, in certain communities to marry your maternal cousin, whereas in the North, that would be treated as incestuous. In North, there would be the concept of the sapindas, etc. So there is the Hindu community going to be impacted as well. Now, in the Uniform Civil Code, there'll be impact on both the communities. Whereas taking baby steps forward, why not just have a Muslim civil code to remove the gender? So what do you think is the background or the understanding that's happening here? Sorry, just before you. After what Veena says, it's going to be thrown open to the audience for questions, yeah? So, if you want this mic. Yeah.
Okay, one couple of things. I think now why the state is not doing something, is a difficult answer. If you ask my political analysis, I'm a lawyer, is that I don't think UCC is going to come in the near future, because I don't think the problem lies with minority communities, etc. And like you said, I think even the Hindu community would not necessarily want it, because it would mean re-looking at the Hindu HUF, re-looking at joint family concept, re-looking at the whole concept of maybe limiting the right to will away property, etc. Then you have the whole, I think when the whole debate started this time, who's speaking for the tribals? I don't think it's merely the left, whatever. I think from the Northeast, many tribal communities, leaders, I think so one of the states also passed a resolution within it, and the district councils passed a resolution against the Uniform Civil Code. So, I don't think, it's merely the Muslim community that is opposing it, or however that we construct it. So I think there is opposition. I don't genuinely see a change coming in now. It would also, for example, the Hindu women got an equal right to property only in 2005. The amendment, and like you said, much more recently. Even as of today, even though the law has come into existence, doesn't mean that all women are immediately getting equal rights in law. So I don't. That is one. Two is that, yes, reform within. When you talk about the protection of women, I think the 1986 Act upon divorce, Muslim Women upon Divorce Act, that was also a legislation actually drafted by the community and placed before the parliament, and said that, okay, post the Shah Banu judgment, this is the legislation that we have drafted, and it was placed before. So it's not like the Muslim community also has moved away from constitutional options. It's not that they're saying that we'll only be governed by within the community. There have been examples. This is an example where they drafted it, gave it to the parliament, which then goes on to being passed. So I think there is, I think from then to now, like what Flavia was talking about, is also that there is a lot of trust deficit. So to expect a conversation between the state and the community to say, let's draft this bill and then bring it up, I feel, it doesn't seem like a possibility at all. While, like, for example, while one is talking about, only you see in public forums, you're talking about Uniform Civil Code, we'll bring this in and whatever. While you're talking about civil reforms, what you're actually bringing in is criminal law reforms. For example, the anti-conversion law that she's talking about, is of criminalizing whatever. Conversion, even for purposes of marriage, whatever that. So you're literally criminalizing civil acts. Criminalizing triple talaq. To me, the instant triple talaq. To me, the minute the Supreme Court actually says it is not legal, so if it is not legal, pronouncing instant talaq does not in any way change your legal relationship or identity. Criminalizing that is criminalizing something in the vacuum. So I pronounce triple talaq, the marriage is not dissolved. So then what is the act that you're actually criminalizing? You're over-criminalizing something. So I think, so therefore, so while you bring in criminalizing of, pronouncing of triple talaq in the name of Muslim women, etc., I think by criminalizing, at one level we have decriminalized adultery. At another level, then you bring in criminalizing an act that actually has no effect in law. So there are these simultaneous things that are happening, and law cannot live. I would think so, and I don't think law exists in that sense in a vacuum. For a question, so therefore when she asked the question, I don't know what the Congress stand is. Actually, I don't even know what any of the political parties' stand is. It is only an electoral stand that one actually takes. Even within the so-called right wing, etc. We still are in an age where talking about gotras, whether there can be more marriages within whatever gotras. We're still, if someone from the oppressed caste actually comes in a horse to ride riding to a marriage, we have, them being killed, etc. So we still live in that reality. I don't know how it works. So I don't know if anybody is very clear. And I think this is just an issue that is raised. Now, regarding, what I wanted to say when she was also speaking about polygamy. There are certain stands that as feminists, as women's rights persons, that you take a political kind of a stand. Like, for example, marital rape, whether it is implementable, not implementable, what does it do? On a principle, we say that no, as a woman, I have whether I'm a wife or otherwise, I have a right to my body, and no one can, against my consent, have a sexual relationship. I think similar, whatever position, even in polygamy, may be on inequality. However, there is also a way of looking at it. For example, under the Domestic Violence Act, the statistics that you also spoke about, that under the, Muslim community, there is 1.9 and there is 1.5, I think, if I remember correctly, of more bigamous marriage or polygamous marriages. Now, if the Muslim law permits Muslim men to marry, then why is it that the statistics are some kind of similar to Hindu men? If Hindu men have been told not to, it's not permissible for Hindu men to marry again, how is it that they are continuing to do that? My logic, as a practicing, coming from the practice of law, is that for every woman that a Muslim man marries, there is a certain legal obligation that there is. He has to pay maintenance, whatever the Domestic Violence Act will come into existence, etc., because she is considered as a wife. However, for a Hindu man, especially post the Supreme Court judgment on Indira Sarma's judgment under the Domestic Violence Act, which literally makes it impossible for the second wife or the person, if a married Hindu man, married Hindu man has another relationship in the nature of marriage as under the Domestic Violence Act. It says that if the woman was aware, or if he doesn't have the legal capacity, whatever, and if he marries, then she's not entitled to remedies under the law, making it much more narrower than the act. So therefore, for a Hindu man, if he marries more than once, he's not legally bound to pay them maintenance, take care of them, provide them residence, or even the Domestic Violence Act does not come into existence. So therefore, I mean, there is a manner in which, so at one level under the Domestic Violence Act, we are looking towards saying that not just the wife, but the other, women in other relationship also ought to be recognized. While when we look at Islamic law, we say that no one can't have more than one wives. So the question is, I think, somewhere that we need to also redefine is in the sense of rights. What is the right, and how do we talk about positive rights for women? That was one thing on the whole issue of polygamy. Second one was also on the age of marriage. I don't think the marrying minors is only a malice in the Muslim community. Actually, a lot of cases in Rajasthan, UP, etc., are also of Hindu community, upper caste communities, etc. So many of the cases that come up in court are also concerning that. I mean, there again you have the judgment of the Supreme Court in independent thought, which literally says that any sexual relationship with a person lesser than, I mean, we have problems with that judgment. Again, but literally, if you were to read it strictly, then under the Child Marriage Act also, I mean, any Child Marriage Act would be against the law. So these, and again, you don't want it. You don't want the law then to say that these marriages are completely, void, ab initio, etc. Because then what happens to young girls, etc., who married maybe between the age of 16 to 18. Independent thought also, I mean, where the court says that you can, the POCSO literally makes, a person a sexual being only post 18, but is that what the societal realities are? So these are much more complicated questions, and I don't think we're anywhere close to even being able to formulate. My understanding is it's a political issue, and it will remain to be. Thank you.
I just want to add 2 points here about Muslim women's rights. Under the Guardians and Wards Act and the Child Marriage Restraint Act does not bar Muslim women from entering there. So this can be used even in the current situation for protecting Muslim women's rights. Because this is not saying that Muslim women are not entitled for child custody. You can't go under Guardians and Wards Act. There's no such restriction at all. And secondly, you cannot see that, second issue was, I forgot. Not polygamy, I said 2 issues. No? Guardians and Wards Act and Child Marriage Restraint Act. So the parents cannot marry the girl before 18, even if it is Muslim, and you can prevent that marriage using the Child Marriage Restraint Act. So here the religion doesn't come. So now we have many such laws, including the Domestic Violence Act, Child Marriage Restraint Act, with various other acts, Guardians and Wards Act, which are not restricted and bounded by the religious personal laws. And we need to expand that territory without even having to go into the uniform civil code debate. That's my point. But most people are not aware. And they use the personal laws rather than the general laws.
As a matter of fact, talking of uniformity, the Goa law has a provision, talking of age of marriage, that a woman can marry at the age of 16. So it's uniform, okay? It's uniform across religions. With permission from parents, but yes, she can. So it's uniform. But on the other hand, there's also the Child Marriage Restraint Act, the criminal law. So you see, there's these complexities, and as far as bigamy, polygamy, etc. Well, if someone wants, especially, I mean, again, it's a question of gender also. If someone wants to live with another woman, wants to do it, he will do it whether there is a law or there is no law. Only thing, that person will not be called wife, the other person will not be called wife, but everything else will happen like it were a bigamy or a polygamy. So if you're talking of rights, now, what is the point? Like, socially, everyone knows this man is living with other women. Then, when it comes to property, yes, we have matrimonial property rights, but now what he's earning will directly be deposited into his account and she will buy the property. So you see, what the law is in effect doing is denying, and it's very difficult then for this woman to establish, because you can ask for the woman who's this thing, she can say she wants to have the marriage declared void. But now there's no question of asking any marriage to be declared void, because that marriage can't be registered in any case.
I just want to add here one more point. I read in a newspaper report, those who marry under 10 years, 82% are Hindus. So how does the Hindu marriage actually help? And it was quite shocking that 82% are Hindu women where the girls are married before 10. That is the statistics. It's shocking statistics. So the law itself cannot bring in gender justice for me.
I think so. So as we said, so as we were kind of looking at, and thank you for all these little important things that you have told us, and I don't think we were even aware of some of these statistics and these nuances. So obviously the change has to come from within. The change has to come from bottom up, and probably the mindset has to change, and hopefully that would. So I'm going to throw this open to the audience for questions. Make the questions short, and also which panelists you're addressing, that would help. Yes, I think somebody back there, a lot of hands up. Sorry? There's only one prize for the best question. Yes, I think it's a return ticket to London. Is that right, Ram? Yeah. Okay, there you are. So just. The panelists will get a wreath on their graves.
Good evening. My name is Praveer from the 3 years first semester. My gratitude to all the panelists for such enlightened discussions. My question is, if this UCC is to come, whether it should be a top-down approach or a bottom-up. Now, for the top-down approach, they cannot be uniform, because so much of diversity is there in terms of, say, patriarchal, matriarchal society and all. So can the UCC will be like more uniform or less uniform, like more equal of George Orwell? Because bottom down, I don't see, even the 4 panelists, they differ so much on this issue. So when we go to the public for a bottom-up approach, I don't think this will be even possible. So only thing is a top-down approach, but even the top-down approach.
So I just would like you to come to the question that you're asking, because...
My question is whether this UCC is a reality to come, or is just a paper discussion. Because if the UCCs come from the top-down, then it definitely is going to touch so many articles of fundamental rights. And maybe the basic structure of constitution may be altered. So whether, is it possible? So my question is simple to the panelists, whether UCC is a possibility or it's just a paper question.
So do you want us to vote on this? Whether it's a possibility
or not? Opinions, sir. Opinions,
okay.
sir.
Would anybody like to take this?
I have been very clear on that.
Yeah, I think I think the answer has been given, that it is aspirative. We want it the way we want to see it. I think we have our own vision of UCC that is out there. So possibly it is.
It looks very simple, but it's not that simple.
That's it. I think. Thank you. Another question, please. Yes.
So many hands are my own. We'll take 3 questions at a time.
Yeah, I guess whenever they want.
Hello.
5 questions. Yes.
So often when new policy changes are made, it is seen and it is construed in a way that rights from one community are given to another community, snatched away from another. So especially in a policy like UCC, where there are so many diverse stakeholders, And for example, polygamy versus monogamy, people have actually converted into Islam because they want to marry more than, they want this sort of permission to be given to them in the holy scriptures where they can marry more than a wife. And another question, the second, how do we deal with such apprehensions? That's my first prong. And the second prong is that another idea was floated that special provisions have to be made. In a country as diverse as India, UCC has to have special provisions. So to combat such disagreement between stakeholders while consultation is being done, is special provisions a way to combat that? And if yes, then just to get everybody on board, is it not unjust in a way that we have special provisions, then how is it just? The first two panelists.
Oh no. Because you can see the first one, you can ask anybody. Okay, I didn't get your question very clearly. Did you get the question very clearly?
Conversion to marry.
Huh?
Converting to marry.
Converting to marry.
Okay. Now, Supreme Court has very clearly come down. You cannot convert to marry. And now there are very stringent laws regarding conversion itself. So I think that issue has been taken care of. But generally people do flout the law and do all kinds of things. But there is no guarantee with the uniform civil code that people will not marry more than one time. For instance, Hindu law and Hindu women, there is no law that allows them, but they do it without conversion also. And then the woman suffers. Now in all this, the women actually suffer because they lose their rights. So with the uniform civil code, if they marry, they will even more lose their rights. So there is absolutely no protection for such women. So I think what we need is to raise awareness among women about the risks that they were entering into.
Ma'am, just a follow-up question.
You asked the two-pronged questions. We are trying to address this.
So the second question, I am not sure if I got it. You're answering? Achha, my one is now if one is saying no to
Special provisions.
I think what one is also talking about is a possibility for piecemeal legislations.
Exactly.
Like for example, how we now have the Domestic Violence Act, or the Child Marriage Restraint Act. So each one of it, like the queer movement is also asking for a possibility of a civil union. So I think this piecemeal legislations is also a way forward, is what one of the possibilities of law is, rather than this overarching possibility of a uniform civil code.
Like greater awareness of a Child Marriage Restraint Act, for instance. It does not bar Muslims or anybody else. But there's no awareness among the Hindus or Muslims. And they marry their children at 10 and 12 and 14. So we need to have greater awareness right from school level, according to me.
I want to respond on the point of special provisions. It's just not possible because the entire structure of the law, everything is connected. So if for example, if you said, let's say, again, I come to my point about marriage is a sacrament. Now you're going to have that as marriage is a sacrament. So now when it comes to succession, how are you going to address the related points after that? Because you're going to have now special provisions on each thing, the entire structure, the framework within which it's happening. Like, for example, a nikah is registered or a Christian marriage, the religious marriage is registered in the church or in the nikah registration. So how are you going to tie up all these things within the framework, within one framework, within one law? Therefore, the law has to be holistic and it has to take into account all the various aspects. And therefore, to my mind, it doesn't seem workable.
In fact, to answer that question, I would say there will always be exceptions. In a country like India, there will always be exceptions. See the Hindu code. The Hindu code has got so many exceptions, although it was meant to be uniform, whether it is marriage and succession, etc. So I do not see a uniform civil code without exception. I mean, this would be my opinion, looking at the past practice that we have here. Next question, please. Yeah. So many hands.
So can I go next?
Can you speak loudly?
This question is to Zakia ma'am. Am I audible? So ma'am, you said that to address the plight of Muslim women, UCC was the way to go. But unless is codifying the Muslim law not a viable alternative? And also, if we were to go ahead with UCC, how, without a codified Muslim law, do we determine what provision should we retain? Like, even the Muslim people might not agree with the full codified Hindu law if it be imposed on them. They'd want to retain their marriage as a contract. The example that Sir gave, they might want to retain the right to marry their cousins. So without a codified Muslim law, first, how do we directly go to UCC, and why is that the option to solve the plight of those Muslim women?
Yeah, so like I said, that it would be ideal to have a very comprehensive reform based on the Quranic injunctions of gender justice. And that would include the constitutional principles also. And have a set of laws which are codified. But if that were not to happen, then this will be the way forward, is what I said. So I'm just repeating that. Yeah.
Yep.
Can we take 2-3 questions together?
Can start?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right. My question is to anyone on the panel today. So my question is regarding 3 judgments. 85-86, Senior Chandrachud said UCC is needed. 3 days ago, the Supreme Court says no one has a fundamental right to marry. And 1952, Bombay High Court said, Raso Appa Mali, uncodified personal law does not defeat the purposes of the Constitution. It cannot be declared void. So my question is, 3 days ago, the Supreme Court has abstained from acting on same-sex marriages. We talked about political realities, we talked about electoral realities. Where does the Supreme Court go with respect to either uncodified personal law, or UCC in general?
So what we're going to do is we'll keep that. Maybe we'll take one more question so we can answer it collectively. Yeah. So your question is, at this point in time, where's the Supreme Court viewing the UCC in the context of uncodified personal law? Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. We can take one more question and then we can answer. Yeah.
Hi. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. I think I love your question. And I have a couple of very more foundational, I'm just like kind of go ab initio on this. One is a lot of the talk was about the idea of the fear amongst the minorities and so on. So my first part is about the legislative the conundrum of legislative intent. I mean, is the basic question that everybody seems to be asking is this uniform civil code being proposed to bring equal rights to everybody in the grandiose fashion that we are, or is it being used as a stick to beat up the minorities? So the question is there any way that we can ever figure out, because you're all scholars of that nature? That's one question. The other is, you see, this whole idea of putting uniform civil code, it's an aspiration, and it comes with these very grandiose visions, as I said. So my question is, it comes from section 44, the DPSPs. And the DPSPs contain a whole lot of stuff, draft and milch animals and this and that, and prohibition of alcohol and all that. I mean, today, is that even relevant? A lot of that seems to be very anachronistic, and a lot of seems to be sanctimonious posturing. Is that really a point?
Well, before the panelists, comment on this, I just want to tell you that you are probably divorced from the ground reality of this country if you think that, protection of milch animals, etc., is not important, my friend. You have to understand that this is a very diverse country. And they are diverse people with diverse needs. And also, I'll just make one comment on your question that you did put up. You have to understand why the Supreme Court refrained from ruling on same-sex marriage. The answer was not because they did not agree with the concept of same-sex marriage. It was because the court found that the court could not bring the changes across some 30 legislations to make same-sex marriage a workable reality. So the rationale, if you read the entire judgment, the judgment says everything, but does nothing. But the fact is, the judgment says everything. It says everything what is right. And it regrets that it cannot do anything because the ball is in the legislature's court. I just let the panelists take these questions now, yeah? Sorry. I just had this compelling need to answer these two. I'm sorry.
My question was not about, I didn't mind me to say that there's no, I'm not divorced from the ground reality. I live in Jharkhand, Bihar, and so I have a very
No, it's.
I'm not talking about that. I made a simple point. The essential point is you getting lost in the details. The main point I made was a lot of the talk, which is what somebody else also said, a lot of the talk on uniform civil code is essentially sanctimonious posturing. Yeah. That's my material point, and that's what I'm asking you.
Okay. We get your point. Thank you. And the background where you come from definitely makes your point very valid. Yeah.
So to get to the point of codification, I just want to say that even that is a complex process because it depends on who codifies and how. And in that context, I'll just give you an example of Goa itself. You see, before the Portuguese, we had the village community system. But the Portuguese, in the process of codifying it, the colonialists, don't forget, were always working in tandem with the local elite. And so, okay. And so when they codified the law, they brought in a lot of elements of the caste system, which the village community system originally did not have. So it's a question of who's codifying it, who has the power to codify it. Ultimately, it is the people's voices and the people's collective consciousness and discussions and movements that will, in the end, have a bearing on what prevails, is my opinion. So that's as far as codification. And so, therefore, when we are saying that where is, in terms of Supreme Court viewing the UCC in terms of uncodified personal law, again, what is that personal law? Now, the queer community has been arguing that it's been part of the culture that you have frescoes on the Ajanta Ellora caves, etc. So therefore it's part of the culture, but it's not codified. So then what is that? What you consider as personal law is also the next question.
Right. What is
yes.
uniformity?
Yes, and then what is uniformity? Then the other point about sanctimonious posturing, I agree that a lot of the discussion is around sanctimonious posturing, but that is where a lot of us are coming in not in terms of just the posturing, but in terms of the lived experiences of the people who we have been engaging with, either as lawyers or as activists or as people organizing people. So it goes beyond posturing because it's coming from the voices that do not feel addressed either through their personal laws or religious laws or through the uniform civil code. So therefore it's beyond posturing, though a lot of people are also posturing.
And gentlemen at the back there, when you said, is the UCC a stick for beating up minority? It will not be, because any law would have to be tested on constitutional grounds. So, ultimately it would have to meet the test of constitutionality, even whichever form it comes in. So I doubt it will be used as a stick for beating minorities, at least not on the legal front. On the political front could be a different story. Yeah.
No, while UCC will be or not, the discussions around UCC is to beat the minority.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead with that.
No, Uniform Civil Code, I mean, when it comes, of course, it will be tested against the Constitution. But however, the discussions vis-a-vis Uniform Civil Code is often, the issue is used to beat the minorities, to say they are not willing, they are not addressing. So I think somewhere, also the need to mention other issues of HUF, queer politics, etc., is also to say it's not just the minorities themselves. Minority itself, the tribal. So I think this time what happened was that a lot of voices actually from other than religious minorities also kind of spoke up and said this will not apply to us in the event that it comes up. So yes, it's often used to do that. So while you're trying to bring in unity, you're actually, what you're doing through that is also, it seems to be like a, dividing.
So also, the societal mindsets and attitudes being what they are, I also feel that the drastic change is not really possible. It's always politics which will take precedence over real change. And we have seen several examples. The latest caste census out of Bihar, even the women's reservation bill, which was recently passed, we have seen how, because it comes back to each one of us who are citizens of India. When we look within our homes, within our families, within our communities, how committed we are to justice and equality. It comes back to us. And how is it that despite all the constitutional and legal provisions, we still are not able to unite as people, Yeah, it's unfortunate. And so it's always the political realities and priorities which take precedence over real change. So that's the conundrum we'll have to live with.
Can I
yes, of course, sir. I'm sorry, you'll have to wait a minute. Sir has a question.
I'm sorry, sir. There's one area which needs to be highlighted, though it did come up for discussion fleetingly once or twice. Nobody knows what the contours of this proposed law is going to be. One can only hazard a guess that it will be something similar to a modified Special Marriage Act, where all inheritance and laws of divorce and etc. would be on the same equal footing, husband and wife having the same rights, inheritance would be very equitable. Can we enforce, or it is even correct to enforce this amongst tribal population? Is it not being very insensitive to a tribal couple to go to a court and say, mutual consent divorce, or prove cruelty or adultery before divorce can be granted? Have you seen the tribal population in northeastern regions, or in forests of Bastar, or even in Meghalaya or Dang forests? I think there is one big chunk of people we are really forgetting about. That's a lingering thought I would like the audience to leave with.
Sir, you're absolutely right, sir. In fact, the Home Minister has actually spoken to the tribal community and said that you would be exempt from this. Whether it is due to legal sensitive compulsions or political compulsions, but there has already been a statement made even without a draft in place.
In which case, this uniform civil code for all population will be...
Is not uniform. Absolutely, that's what I said. The exceptions would... So we got one last question before we...
I want to add something.
Yes.
I just want to say the entire issue of UCC or personal laws is a question of governance. Because during the British time, if you see, the personal laws came and were enacted and legitimized because the British government did not want to interfere within the personal customs or practices of the people. Now, again, the Uniform Civil Code in the similar line, it's an issue of governance and to what extent it's feasible for the present government to enforce a UCC or not. But somebody asked this, you have the majority, why don't you do codify the Muslim law, etc. It's a question of governance and to what extent it's possible to do it or not possible to do it. So we have to look at in that context. And when you say, is it a posturing or whatever, to what extent governance will be possible with the Uniform Civil Code or not possible. So this we have to always keep in mind that it's a question of governance.
Hello. Greetings to all guests. My question would require only a yes or no answer. It's not. My question would only require a yes or no answer. Sir, we are unanimous on this issue that we can have a uniform criminal code since the very beginning. And we are having it since 75 years. Yet, we have states and there is a state list. And we can't have a uniform criminal code right now. We differ from state to state. When we are already unanimous on this issue, even after that, we can't have a uniform criminal code. And we are talking about uniform civil code when we have this state and state list. So in my opinion, I feel that this is a constitutional paradox. I just want a simple yes or no answer from you honored guest that whether I am right or not in this context.
This sounds like a cross-examination. I think the panelists have answered pretty much their viewpoints on what they would want and what is practical at the end. I'm sure, so it would be, I think they have kind of made it. I'm sorry, we cannot take any more questions. I've requested the panelists and they will be here down with us. Maybe some of you students can chat with them. They are wonderful people here and we will be closing this. No, it's no point raising your hand because no more questions are being taken. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, but as I told you that you can chat with the panelists down. They will be here for a bit with us. To conclude today, we had a question. Can we have a uniform civil code? And probably it's a very Eurocentric approach or a Western approach, viewing India as a nation. Is India a nation? Yes. Is India a nation consisting of Indians? The answer is yes. But India is also a nation consisting of Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians. I will end this debate today by quoting Ramchandra Guha. And in one of the talks I heard from him, he said, what is the difference between Chinese fried rice and Indian biryani? He said, Chinese fried rice is uniform throughout. Whether you... So...
The mic is not uniform throughout.
Now, just because I mentioned China, you want to choke me, right? So he said the Chinese fried rice is uniform throughout, but the Indian biryani has got layers. It's got the meat or the masala at the bottom, it's got the white rice, it's got the yellow rice, it has got the garnish. Both are rice dishes. But in India, we have the diversity in the unity. And that is what it is our responsible to maintain. Whether should we have a one-size-fits-all uniform civil code, or should we make sure that the universal values of the Constitution are there in every personal code? And with this thought, I conclude today's debate and I thank my wonderful panelists very much. I think there is some formality. Bouquet मिलेगा. Bouquet मिलना चाहिए. हम इनको कितना बोला bouquet मत दियो, chocolate दियो. या plant दे दो. Plant दे दो या chocolate तो खाते.
At the end, I would like to say that this was truly a scintillating debate. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the Government Law College to all the panelists for engaging with us and enlightening us on ideas and policy issues of the UCC tailored to a diverse country like India as it stands today. Can we have a round of applause for our panelists? debate has highlighted the importance of various aspects on diverse personal laws. I am sure that due to the wide spectrum of perspectives that the panelists have offered, ranging from on-ground litigational barriers to the aspiration of various committees, of the entire audience has befitted a lot.
Today we gather here today, not only to mark the end of the 8th edition of the policy debate, but to also pay tribute to a distinguished panel of individuals whose presence has enriched this event. It is with great pleasure and immense pride that we come together to felicitate our esteemed panelists. So without further ado, now I would like to invite Advocate Veena Gowda to receive the token of appreciation and our Deputy Convener Shwet Pandit to present the same. Now, I would like to invite Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida to receive the token of appreciation and our Deputy Convener Siddhant Paithankar to present the same.
I have a diverse way of thanking.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Ms. Zakia Soman to receive the token of appreciation.
And lastly, I would like to invite Advocate Flavia Agnes to receive the token of appreciation and our co-convener, Dhanashri Dalvi, to present the same. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Professor Kishu Daswani, to receive our small token of appreciation and our co-convener, Ram Manohar Gupta, to present the same. Thank you, sir, for being our mentor and guiding us throughout. Thank you, panel, for being a part of this event and for making the 8th edition of the policy debate truly an unforgettable experience. Please join me in another round of applause to celebrate this occasion.
In conjunction with our event, the Debating and Literary Society organizes the Policy Review, a competitive call for articles, opinions, essays on the theme of the debate, giving an opportunity to students across the country to write about their policy perspectives. This year around, we had widened the topics to 5, including first, UCC, a question of identity for the tribal communities. Second, personal laws across border, a comparative analysis. Third, UCC, boost or roadblock to women's right. Fourth, Goa's civil code, exemplary or irreplicable. And lastly, UCC, the question of inclusion for sexual and gender minorities. However, owing to the large number of entries, much more than we had expected, we have prolonged the judgment process in the interest of a fair and a properly assessed verdict. We usually announce the same at the policy debate, but this time around, the participants will be notified of the results online by the Debating and Literary Society very soon. We thank all the participants for making the policy review grow with every subsequent edition. Keep writing. We encourage more participation and we are ever grateful for the growth that we have seen on. We would now like to call upon our co-convener, Ms. Dhanashri Dalvi, to present the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. This event could not have reached the heights of greatness and valuable wisdom without the stars of the show, our esteemed chief guest, retired Justice Akil Kureshi, and the knowledgeable panelists, Advocate Flavia Agnes, Advocate Veena Gowda, Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida, and Ms. Zakia Soman. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for sparing your time and joining us on this endeavor of learning. We would like to acknowledge the contribution of few people without whom we could not have organized the 8th policy debate. Firstly, thank our principal, Dr. Asmita Vaidya. Your guidance and involvement have been instrumental in making this event a success. Thank you. We would also thank our sponsors, without whose generosity this event could not have manifested as well as it did, and our media partners, SCC India, for spreading the message of our event far and wide. We would also like to thank our professors in charge, Dr. Shweta Shiraskar and Professor Anita Desley, for being our pillars of support all through the run-up to this day. In a youthful journey through college, organizing an event of this magnitude can be quite a challenge, and hence it is always appreciated and a little bit necessary to have an experienced hand at helm. This role has always been played by our go-to professor and today our moderator, Professor Kishu Daswani. Not only has he consistently agreed to moderate this debate year after year, but he has also provided us with invaluable mentorship and guidance during moments of uncertainty. The policy debate truly would not have been successful without you, sir. There are also certain people without whose constant support and love our vision would not have fruitified. We would like to thank Jadhav Kaka, Ajit Kaka, and whole administrative staff of college for their cooperation and assistance through all of our nagging and disturbances. Last but not the least, the Executive Council of the Debating and Literary Society 2023-2024 for being who they are and creating the policy debate, along with to thank first my co-convener Ram Gupta, our deputy conveners Shwet Pandit and Siddhant Paithankar, our junior executive council Aryan Gaurav, Afra Sheikh, Deepankar Gaikwad, Devi Menon, Rajeshwar Singh Parmar, Rian Arkar, Simon Crasto, and Vakar Vasta. Our advisory board, who has always guided us through everything, and they're just a call away, always. An extension of similar gratitude to all of our wonderful seniors for being right here by our side whenever we have needed them. Like, genuinely just a call away. They've always been here for us, so thank you so much. And finally, a big thank you to all the members who have showed us so much love and support. Even as yesterday, we were quite uncertain about this event. So many of you guys approached us and asked us to, we are just a call away. That even like if the fire is sorted out, we'll come help you out. We live in Dadar, we live in Vadala, wherever. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for showing up today. And it was a great afternoon and evening. It was a great evening with all of you guys. And thank you. And I think you'd like to end the 8th policy debate here. Or I would now like to request you all to stand for the state anthem and the national anthem.
जबाब देती जिभा सह्याद्रीचा सिंह गर्जतो शिवशंभू राजा
दरी दरीतून नाद गुंजला महाराष्ट्र माझा
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे